Hello, welcome. This is great. I'm not as nervous as I was earlier today, so that's good now that I see who's here and I see all of your lovely faces. This is so fun. I just really quickly want to thank Ricky Castleberry, who made me do this. He was the one who said, you need to perform in front of a live audience to get practice doing that. And he pushed me out of my comfort zone and then said, you need to have Arnaecia as your guest. And so also huge thanks to her. Welcome her, please. All right. So this is the All at Once podcast, where we carry much like all of humanity all at once. I'm so glad you guys are here. We are here tonight with lots of goodies that will be talked about later. And that's because of our sponsors. And so we're sponsored by Larry's Designs, which is a local shop. And there's gift cards for you there that she donated to us. That's great. And then Stanfield Properties and Funky Monkey and loads of just patrons and supporters that make this possible so that we don't have to put our own personal funds into this. And so we're just really grateful for them. And to God be the glory, y'all.
Hiya. I'm Nicole Golden. And very short. Hello. I am from Utah originally, but I reside in Texas right now, the great state of Texas. I am the marketing director for the podcast and kind of dabble in a lot of different things, but I am just so grateful to be on the podcast. I was really happy when Kelly was like, hey, yes, will you please join us? And I was like, yes, I would love to. It's been a wonderful experience being able to see how they are so accepting of others and how much they encourage vulnerability and welcome it openly. It's been wonderful to get to listen to the different podcast episodes and to see how everyone has grown throughout the seasons. I'm new to this season, but it's been fun getting to listen to the older seasons as well. Before you guys go, don't forget to get a gift bag. There's little goodies in it from us and from our sponsors, but so happy you all are here.
Hello, I'm Audra. I am a video editor from Dallas. However, I'm in town because I edit the podcast. Woohoo! So you're welcome. No, just kidding. I work on this podcast because I think it's important to continue to help out people who are trying to make a difference in the world in a positive way, and people who are willing and vulnerable to speak to the things that not everybody is willing to speak to. So the vulnerability of this podcast has been really eye-opening for me in some conversations with friends and in my own life. So thank you, everyone who's been a part of that. And that is why I work on the podcast. We, tonight, are doing a couple of things here. We're going to have some music, some live music played for us from Kate. And then we are going to have some spoken word from Rev. Yeah, it's really good, guys. And then we are going to have an interview as well. So we're going to do a couple different things, and I hope you enjoy the night.
She's not kidding when she says you're welcome, because when we record, it's often we say a sentence and it's nope, I got to start over. Sorry, Audra. And then we just keep going. So thank you. We love you. Let's give her another round of applause. She's out here doing the Lord's work. Hey, everybody. My name is Dara George. I'm so excited to be here. Kelly and I have been friends for a very, very long time. I won't say how long because I'm not going to age us. But I live in New Jersey, and Kelly came to visit me, 3-4 years ago when we were on a subway in New York. She was like, we should do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, girl, we should. In the back of my head, I'm like, love that journey for you. But I don't know how to do a podcast. That's not going to happen. But then she just did it. She did it. And now it's a whole thing. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. When she asked me to be a part of this season, she shared, hey, we really want to center Black voices and have Black people at the decision-making table, which I think is so important. So thank you for having me. So excited to be here. And I have the honor of introducing the lovely Kate Short. So singer, songwriter, writer, director, and all things creative. We have Kate with us here tonight. Give her a round of applause. Kate has a newly released album called Seasons that you can get anywhere you get your music. On that album is our podcast theme song, If You Were Here. She flew here with me all the way from New Jersey, so let's give her a big welcome. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Hi. So I wrote the song that's the podcast theme song, and Kelly wanted me to play some other songs from my album while I was here. So this is this first song is called Seasons. It's about actually I'm just gonna play it. Yeah, I'll talk about it afterwards. I've been trying to get you off of my mind, but all I see is falling in a different way from what I thought would be. I'm inclined to sit inside and wonder how I've tried, but nothing ever coincides. No summer solstice skies. Seasons come and seasons go, and all leave me behind, but I can't force the stars to align. All this time stuck standing in silent lines, waiting for the call that changed the tides to finally collide. And I can't help hoping one day you'd tell, and all the highs would redeem the lows, and something could grow. Oh, seasons come and seasons go, and all leave me behind, but I can't force the stars to align. Ooh. But then I know how these things go every time your world turns without me. I can't tell you why I wanted to hide, so just get out of my mind. Seasons come and seasons go, and I'll leave you behind, and I can't force the stars to align. Thank you so much. So that song, I wrote it about a boy, but Kelly, when it was in like the first drafts, told me that it really resonated her with just thinking about relationships and them changing and people like coming in and out of your life and how you deal with like sometimes relationships don't last and how do you deal with that? Which I thought was cool and very inspiring, because then I was like, people can take away what they want from these songs, which is cool. So the next one is also about relationships changing. This one is called When You Walk Away, and it's about how every time you say goodbye to someone, whether it be like family or friends or relationships, you don't know how they're going to change or how you're going to change until the next time you see them. And so this is just kind of about that tension. I'll let go of your heart if you let go of mine. We'll see how it unwinds in time. walk away, when you walk away, do you want to stay together or see what the seasons reap? I told you it's up to timing. You said maybe I'm the one to keep. Will it be the same when you walk away? When you walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. When you walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. My eyes and your smile, up and down the grocery aisle. Don't promise yes, don't promise no. Maybe I'll see you in a while. Will it stay the same when you walk away? When you walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. When you walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. With space, the heart grows fonder or disappears. But me, I wanna see the years. I'd be happy with you. Okay, this next song is upbeat. This song I wrote during the pandemic about feeling isolated. I think it's still relevant, I guess. Went on a run at 2 a.m. I was tired of my feet treading the carpet. The cold helped me get out of my head. When I'm up tomorrow night, I'll do it again. Rearrange my room, then rearrange it again. The songs that play on repeat won't get stuck in my head. And I can't seem to remember what it was like before. But I miss it. Took the car for a drive in the late afternoon, without a destination in mind except away. The sun burst through a window with a shower sparks. I used to feel like that. Rearrange my room, then rearrange it again. The songs that play on repeat won't get stuck in my head. And I can't seem to remember what it was like before. But I miss it. But I miss it. rush of the days, the fall of the leaves, the spring in my step wearing jeans. But most of all, I miss you. Rearrange my room, then rearrange it again. The songs that play on repeat won't get stuck in my head. And I can't seem to remember what it was like before, but I miss it. But I miss it. Whoa, oh, but I miss it. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Molly. I do social media for the podcast. And as someone who has always felt a lot of tension with the self versus the teachings of the church, working with the All at One podcast has really just been incredibly empowering. Up next, we have Rev. He was our guest in season 3, episode 2, and his episode had one of his spoken word pieces in it. We were so moved by the vulnerability that he showed that we'd asked him to come and join us and share what he does with all of you. So please welcome me in joining Rev.
All right, so how we doing? A little more energy. Can we get that? All right, so I'll just kind of dive right into one of my pieces. If you guys don't mind that, that's cool? Yes? So I'll start with this. Why was I born black? Born into poverty, modern day slavery, and that's a fact. I feel like the world was created to break me down. And you're telling me it's because my skin color is brown? I look at my community and my people, and all I see is pain. But can you blame? Because the world that we live in drives us insane. I love my skin color, but to be honest, it comes with a price. No other race understands the things that I have to sacrifice. Like my education. Why did I have to go to school? I learned about everything but myself. Who created that rule? A curriculum of programmed information for 8 hours a day. Why are we learning this? It would be useful in the future, that's what they say. Why did I take tests on information that I don't know who created? Because of education, I feel like my mind was manipulated. You don't have to agree, but for me, the school building itself was uncannily. And if I didn't make good grades, I had to deal with my family. Family, let's talk about that. How we all have the same question. Why was I born black? And because that's something that we never verbalize, we are forced to wear fear's mask of disguise. No vulnerability, we just pass pain from one to another. So I catch the generational curse from my father and mother. Why couldn't they get it together? Why couldn't they get it right? Why weren't they the best person that they can be so I can have a better life? Why couldn't they communicate? Why couldn't they heal? It's probably because they were distracted by a job and a bill. Bills. Let's talk about society and how the system that we live under creates nothing but anxiety. Forced to chase a dollar bill just to pay an expense. And that's why we all walk around looking so tense. We're given a list of options and forced to choose a career. And without a job, we make no money, so we all live in fear. Where do I go with these thoughts and feelings? Oh, I know a place. Somewhere that love dwells and I'm supposed to feel safe. Church. So I go and I ask, what is life really about? But they judge me and condemn me, then they kick me out. I question everything this world has taught me. I feel so alone. I feel like I'm the only person dreaming about the unknown. So you tell me, why are we here? Why are you here? Because I know why I'm here. I'm here to speak against fear. I'm here to help the people who don't know what to do. Listen between the lines and you'll start to hear the truth. The truth is, everything in life has some type of purpose, but we're blinded by distractions, so we can't see beneath the surface. Get ready for the rain, because we're walking into a new season. But first, you have to believe that everything happens for a reason. Your pain, your worries, it's time to heal. Look in the mirror and say, I love you, so you know it's real. Your past, your future, focus on now. The biggest secret to life is learning to allow. Open your eyes. Life is trying to get your attention, to help you understand there's a different dimension, retention. The system was made to keep us mentally suppressed. I'm not afraid anymore. I'll say it with my chest. We're depressed. I'm vulnerable for my people, so I confess. Everything we don't discuss, I promise to address. But for now, please understand that it is you versus you. Until you put in the self-work, you won't have a clue that you are love's creation, so you were created to thrive. And when you understand the power of love, you know that the universe is alive. So when you're feeling down, feeling heavy, look to the sky. Open your mind, open your heart, and ask the question, why? Love. Woo. Yeah. All right. So, hi, guys. My name is James Pierre, but I go by Rev, R-E-V, Rev. A few years ago, I had some type of awakening within myself with everything going on in the world. It's kind of chaotic, right? But just within myself, I kind of realized that I was doing a lot of things that I was taught how to do, just kind of a cycle of every day, wake up, do this, do that, but just no type of purpose in life, right? So I created this character. His name is Rev, all right? And it stands for the revolution, all right? Because we need to change the way that we think as a collective, all right? So, I just believe I'm going to lead that revolution one day. And I believe that it's time for change in our communities. It's time for change in our families, and most of all in ourselves. So I know that was pretty, it was kind of heavy, right? It was kind of heavy. You can give me head nods. It was a little heavy. Can I dive deeper? Can I dive deeper? Yeah? Give me some snaps if I can dive deeper. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I had all of these questions. I would ask questions like that towards my mom, my dad growing up. Like, why? We talk about God. All right, God, what's happening in the world? We have these questions that we really don't know the answers to. So when I became of age, I started to do research, and I started to figure out the why behind a lot of things. And as a collective, we shy away. We don't talk about the things that need to be talked about. And I believe that we can do it with love. So for me, I've learned how to express myself. As you can see, I'm a black man. I have a past. Look at me. Physically, you can't help but judge me. However, born into this world with the way I look, I was put into We're going to get into the next point. All right, so discovering the why, I see that today that we live in a system. Can I talk about it? Yes? A system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism in order to implement principles and procedures to which something is done. To the land of fear, in a home with a slave, sick and tired of this unscrupulous escapade, no longer afraid of the things that you can do, wipe away the residue of the red, white, and blue, constructed agendas and systematic rituals. This is spiritual. Fabricated illusions to capture the mind of the individual. Born into this matrix, I can no longer take it, dedicated to make a brother feel unappreciated. Created sedated to keep us mentally confined. Behind the design. Indoctrinated media turning our children blind. Freedom stripped from the mind and filled with mystified knowledge. All my life I was taught to go to college. Subliminal scenes, counterfeit kings, casting spells in the music that we sing. Hold the hand of a child on the road to hell. We're on a trail. Based on a school system, they created the jails. Legalized murder. Abuse has been constituted. Paradoxical laws makes it impossible to dispute it. Contributed the most wicked. The system of health generates the most wealth and it sits on the highest shelf. Reprehensible directions. Infected injections. Don't know how to properly heal because we've lost the connection. Pharmacies, doctors, vaccines, and pills keeps us ill. We're stuck with the bill. but it's what you eat that really helps you heal. Nothing is real. The hand of Uncle Sam turned food into a monetized program, deemed it acceptable for us to consume ham and lamb. Wake up. I need you to see the scam. Recognize the antic. It's no longer organic. Switched up humanics to change our biomechanics. This shit is satanic. This is a system of panic, deliberately mandated by the powers that be. They don't want you to see the diabolical perfunctory. Shh, distract mankind with something that'll make them smile. All the while we're walking the green mile. But as long as we're in style, as we walk down that aisle, our fabrics are cursed, prohibited from touching the earth, paycheck to paycheck just to buy a new purse. Working a job that hurts to buy shit we don't need, nefarious activities, robotic necessities. Materialistic pain, diverted by fame, entertained by wheels of fortune, a bamboozling game. Chosen politicians, sycophantic positions, exploit the world's condition, isolation is the mission. Fox News plants the seed. CNN promotes when we bleed, instilling fear through social media that we are forced to read. Reality, TV, the defamation of a black man. He's either a deadbeat, a cheater, or he might be trans. And to the black queen at the bottom of the totem pole, forced to provide, protect, and play the man's role, selling our souls to a system of control. Abominable behavior. Do me a favor. Call on the king because the world needs a savior. Ain't no love in the matrix, strategized calamity, formulated a master plan to destroy a family. Grab the gun, no unity. Load the clip, they put drugs in our community. Pull the trigger, axiomatic, supercilious scrutiny. Flight or fight is how you respond. They already won because the matrix controls which way you will run. Unplug your brain, break the chain, create your own lane. Then you decide who sits on your train. Reconsider what you've been taught. Challenge every thought. A quantumous expression. I can no longer be bought. Imagination uncaught. Licentiously distraught. Call me Neo in the Matrix, because I know that I fought for a free mind. The Matrix, greatest opponent, you only own a component. Take it back so you capture every moment. Created limitless, but we choose ignorance. Slavery over freedom, what does it mean to be bliss? We have the choice. Choose to use your voice. Counterpoise aticophobia so we can all rejoice. The Matrix is committing a crime. Reclaim your time and it'll shift the paradigm. Love, life, and freedom starts in the mind. You are the system. Love. One more. Okay, yes, so I know that was, I know that was heavy, guys. However, you know, I'm here to broaden your perspective, right? That's what life is all about. Can you sit and listen to something that may be uncomfortable to you, but this is something that I live. This is something that we all live, right? When discovering the why, I believe that a lot of the things that are set into place in this world, what we call life, is to isolate us, is to separate us. But ultimately, we're all one. We're all in this moment together. Our hearts beat the same, you know? And it's about taking yourself out of your shoes, out of your skin, out of you. It's not about you, and looking at that person, looking at the situation, you know? And I feel like the world, we have a hard time doing that as a collective, right? So through it all, give me some snaps. So through it all, you know, when it comes to breaking trauma within yourself, because we all go through trauma, right? But let me tell you my biggest fear growing up. My biggest fear was my skin color, right? Because I was taught, hey, you can't do this, you can't touch that, you can't go there, this will happen to you. That's what I was taught. So I hated myself for the longest. I hated the weight of my hair, I hated my skin, I hated myself. And you can see, that's why most of us go around and, you know, not no disrespect, but that's why we do this. We cover ourselves. We don't like the way that we look because we've been taught that through the media. We've been taught that in so many ways. It's very strategic when you think about it. So learning how to love me. Can I end it? I'm going to end it on this one. I'm going to end it on a higher note. Can I talk about love? Yeah, that's cool. Can I bring it there? So I had to learn how to love myself because the world and so many people, parents, grandparents, they teach you not to love yourself because they don't love themselves. So anyways, do me a favor. If I say something that touches your heart, give me some snaps because I just got to raise the energy out here. Give me some snaps. If you feel something that touches your heart, all right, I want to hear your snaps. Or give me a head nod or something. Cool? All right, so do this. Ask me what is love. Ask me what is love. And I'll point my finger at you. Would you call it a lie or would you call it true? You see, most of us don't realize that we are all love's creation. But love has lost its value from generation to generation because from my observation, we love one another with limitation. So let me tell you what love is, and I hope you feel this vibration. First off, let me make this very clear. Open your ear. Love is the total opposite of fear. Corinthians chapter 13, love's true definition. Read until you understand that you're supposed to love without a condition, because when I say I love you, me is not in the picture. I'm supposed to love you for you, and that's in the scripture. To love is to be vulnerable, to express from within. But we don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to communicate because we're afraid to offend. We don't articulate our thought or our emotions. And because we keep everything inside, reality is commotion. But perhaps the most important skill we seem to forget, it goes hand in hand with expressing. It's a duet. We can't just talk because to love is to listen. Something we aren't willing to do, and that's what's missing. When the next person speaks, you listen to comprehend and ignore the voice in your head that wants to defend. That's what love is. Can you listen to pain when someone else is telling you about their days of rain? Or maybe someone is telling you what they see in you. It hurts, but are you willing to listen to what might be true? You see, without pain, there is no love. That's just how it goes. We live in a world where pride speaks louder than love, and it shows. It's not about me. Love has no type of pride. If someone can upset you, you need to look on the inside. We were all created different, so feelings will be hurt. It is your job to process and identify so that you are able to assert effectively to me what might be on your mental. I'll say I'm sorry because I understand that love is gentle. Now listen closely because this is a very important fundamental. To apologize, then forgive will make a moment transcendental. Another missing puzzle piece. To love is to forgive. When someone tells you sorry, you let go and continue to live. If unforgiveness is inside of you, you are slowly dying. It is a silent killer and it will keep you from flying. By now, you should realize that love is relationship. Get a pen and write this down so that you are fully equipped. You are incapable of love until you learn to love yourself. And until you accept that statement, you will never be any help. Love is trust. Trust is love. The only way to comprehend is if you look above to find the answers to who am I without anything or anyone. And when you figure that out, life becomes kind of fun. Because when you know love, you know the power that you hold. You feel the light and you shining like a brick of gold. Love is life. It's the answer to it all. When you truly learn love, you will no longer crawl, you will fly. Because with love, anything is possible. And when you walk in love, your force is unstoppable. I got to personally thank love for what it's done for my life. Now that I know love, I can see there's an even bigger fight. Love taught me that I'm the problem, held the mirror up to me. Love broke my chains. Love set me free. Can't you see? Love wants to teach you who you are and what you were born to do. So when you ask me what is love, that's why I point my finger at you. Love, love. Whew. All right, so yes. So just talking about that, guys, I want to leave this note with you. First of all, thank you. Thank you to this beautiful setting. Thank you guys, these beautiful ladies up here. I had a blast with them on the interview. I'm so proud of y'all for like being here, doing all of this. This is an amazing moment, isn't it? Come on, give it up for them. Yes, shout out to the venue. This is a beautiful venue, and it's just a beautiful day. I'm just feeling great. So I just wanted to leave this note with you guys. I encourage you to really love yourself. That's really my message today. Have those conversations with yourself. You know, the world kind of says, oh, you can't talk to yourself. I talk to myself all the time. Even when I was up here performing, I was talking to myself in my head. So, you know, talk to yourself and don't be afraid to do that. Those hard, difficult conversations, that's how you learn how to be accountable. That's how you learn how to be responsible and just show discipline. And once you learn how to talk to yourself with grace, you learn how to do that with others, right? So learn how to love yourself. That relationship with you, please work on that because we can never stop diving with ourselves, right? All right, so love you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.
I told you he was awesome. We're going to welcome back Kate Short to play again for us, and then after that, we will do our interview. Welcome back, Kate.
Okay, so I wrote this song the summer of 2020. I was home from college during the pandemic. And then I wrote this song in the midst of a lot of turmoil with the pandemic and then also the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was, the song is kind of just about like a response I had to a lot of churches that I was in contact with back home. I'm from Dallas, so in Dallas, and I was confused. Hey, Dallas. I was just really confused by like a lot of reactions from the church in like a bunch of different areas, but especially with racism, and confused why like the stuff that we're preaching like wasn't being enacted. Like people weren't responding the way that I thought Jesus would. So that's what the song's about. Wait. Hold on, I gotta look at my notes. The tuning is weird. Let's see, okay. Yeah, and so I wrote the song after listening to Kelly, like the first drafts of Kelly's podcast, and then reading Searching for Sunday by Rachel Held Evans. You'll like hear a little bit of that kind of language about like, I kind of took the image of the garden from the dust from her book, and about how like God creates all things new, and is in the process of creating things new. So the song is kind of like a lament questioning song as well as like a prayer. God, can you show me how to trust? These wings of mine are shorn and shattered in the cold. I learn each lesson over and over and over again, but I'm still small and worn. Gotta know that you are near, but each time my head spins from what it hears, I wonder why so much is left unsolved. I can't change it alone. If you were here, how would you speak? While the world keeps on revealing itself for what it is. God, can you show me how to trust? How you grow again the garden from the dust, to put myself aside and read between the lines enough to see the signs of change. If you were here, how would you love while the world keeps on taking for itself more than it gives? If you were here, how would you live? How would you pick up the broken pieces of existence to teach me my part in it, to show how you bring back to life all the beauty we've lost? Oh my gosh. Thank you. Okay, and then this is my last song. This is, do we have time? No. Okay, this song, I wanted to play it because Kelly's song, and also talking to a lot of people about, or Kelly's podcast and people working on the podcast talk a lot about vulnerability, and its importance, and it's like our path to healing and living in community with each other. And so this song I wrote about my best friends and the experience of like, being able to be vulnerable with them about hard things. So, and it's called Highway Lights. Backyard at twilight, fireflies. Find out who we are. Blurred outlines blend into dark. Moments on speed dial always. Rest and be wrong. History scattered in songs. And highway lights have nothing on us, nothing on us now. And the rest of my life, walls are falling, walls are falling down. Driving at midnight, silent, mapped out, slightly battered hearts, like connecting wires, and highway lights have nothing on us, nothing on us now. And the rest of my life, walls are falling, walls are falling down. you.
Can you give it up for Kate again? Good afternoon, Friendswood and friends of the All at Once podcast. My name is Janice Street, and it's been an honor for me to join the producing team as one of the producers on this season of the All at Once podcast. One of the things that I've been personally very excited from the very beginning of the podcast was the focus on inclusion. Inclusion not out of some form of charity, but a recognition that intentionally focuses on having more voices at the table as being the right thing to do. And here's the thing. Inclusion acknowledges the strengths that come from justice, and as Rev says, comes from love, and it comes from equality. So please join me in welcoming a champion of inclusion, Arnaecia Alridge. Arnaecia is an entertainment executive who has worked with Grammy Award-winning artists and is a fierce advocate for equity and representation in the spaces she inhabits. Welcome, Arnaecia, to our show.
It is beautiful. And I just want everyone to go look at my foster daughter right now. She's in the back corner being held by my amazing husband. She's really cute and was dressed by her father. Yeah. Nathan hates attention. We're a great match.
Can't relate.
Okay, also, so she did not plan to coordinate. Yeah. She just ended up looking exactly like she made that decision on purpose. And I just want to acknowledge that there is something special going on here between the three of us, besides being Humble High School graduates.
Whoop, whoop.
And that's how we all know each other, is from Humble High School. So remember your high school friends. That's the rule here. Okay, well, Arnaecia, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Nice to see everyone. I have not been in Friendswood probably in I don't know when. So maybe like 15 years, literally. So I'm not too much in Houston anymore, but I am from here, obviously, like they said. We went to school together. And so I'm excited to be on this side of town and excited to be here. And thank you so much to Kelly and to Ricky, who's not here, but
he lives in LA or he'd be here.
Yeah, thank you to Ricky, thank you to Kelly, and thank you to Dara. So I'm just excited. Oh, and yeah, I was not going to be wearing this. I was actually going to wear like a crimson red shirt. That would have been so awful. So I tried it on and I was like, no, I think I'm feeling more of like this vibe because I forget it's a daytime event. So I was like, red is more for night. So I was like, no, I'm going to switch to this. And it just worked out. So yeah, something is in the air.
All right. Well, we are so excited. Also, why did you make me follow the voice of an angel and the spoken word wizard over there? But I'll do my best here. So excited to have you. Would love to start and just hear a little bit about how you grew up.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, my childhood is very crazy, like most of ours. So I grew up in a very extremely Christian household. I would say it may be err more on the side of fundamentalism, if you're familiar with that. And so very strict household. We had lots of rules and regulations. And we also went to church, I think, maybe almost every day, literally. Realistically, maybe 4 times a week. So probably 4 times a week, several services a day. You couldn't miss church. It was just like, it was unheard of. So the fact that now I think I skip church on Sundays, I'm like, I can't believe I don't go to church on Sundays anymore.
You don't burn up and go to hell on the spot.
I know. I'm like, I can't believe it. But I do remember the first time when I was like 18 and I had this boyfriend and it was New Year's and I think it could have been a Sunday on that New Year's. And so I said, oh, he invited me to hang out. And I just declined automatically because I'm like, I can't, because it's a Sunday, or either it was just New Year's and I can't miss church, obviously. And because I had never done it before, and I put the request in, could I actually hang out with my friends, AKA my boyfriend, and not go to church tonight? And I was so scared, and she said yes. And I was like, what? And so for the first time, I had missed a Sunday in my life, I think when I was maybe like 18. And I was just like, I felt so weird, but I was very happy to have that reprieve. But honestly, it felt weird. And like my early 20s growing up, it felt weird because then I would go like some Sundays and miss some Sundays. And when I didn't go, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to hell. And I can't believe I missed Sunday. And it was just the worst. But now I have the freedom to choose how I like to apply my faith. And so I'm just excited about that.
Love to see it. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go along, but for all of the wonderful folks here who don't know what you do, can you tell us a little bit about what you do for a living?
Oh, Lord. Everything. No. So to sum it up, I would say this. I started off in merchandising, working in the music industry for people in hip hop and in the gospel industry, obviously, right? I had to have had that in my life. So I started off doing that, and I worked my way up and started being a director, brand manager for different artists. And from there became the formal representation as a publicist in the music industry for a lot of different artists and even pastoral leaders as well. Worked with so many mega churches as well. And that's sort of been how I made my living. Now I am in development of my own record label that will be launching next year. It's called A Jam Records. Woo! And so thank you so much. And so it's pretty much essentially about me taking all the things that I already do for every thing in the music industry. I do a lot of advocacy work. I am a board member of the Recording Academy and chair of education as well with the organization. So I do a lot of advocacy with legislators, with advocating for music rights and making sure that the music industry is as accessible and equitable for everybody. One of the key facts, I hope I'm not getting ahead, but the music industry is 50 to 60% of brown-skinned people that dominate the music industry, but only few of them have the ability to make key decisions in that. And so my whole purpose on earth right now is to make sure that I close that gap. And with A Jam Records, that's also something I'm going to be doing, is making sure that artists have a fair, creative, equitable home they can go to put out their music and inspire the world. And so essentially that's what I do, if that makes sense to everybody. Hopefully it makes sense. It's so many different layers to it, but my main job is, you can just say, a music executive, to sum it up.
Have you met my friend Kate? Arnaecia Kate Arnaecia. We'll have a chat later.
Yes, I saw Kate earlier. She was so beautiful.
So back up a little bit and tell me more about how growing up, so she grew up in a super fundamentalist home, and I want to hear more about how that was specific to you as a woman and a young Black girl growing up in the suburbs. How was that? What was that like? How did you learn to stay in your place?
Yeah. So, well, let me go back really quick. The first half of my life as a child, I spent it in the hood, literally. I don't know how else to put it, but I grew up in the hood. So 7th grade, I ended up moving to the Humble area and acclimated to what I felt was an extremely a culture shock for me. And but growing up, my first few years, you know, everyone around us was the same. I mean, we all was, I feel like, fundamentalism in Christianity. I think our neighbors, we all went to the same church, we all did the same things, and you know, a lot of the rules we had, like some of the people say, oh, do you know how to play spades, or do you know how to play this and play that game? And I'm like, I couldn't have cards in my house. Like, what are you talking about? So the only cards we could have in the home were like Uno, because they were not played with like in casinos and gambling. So anything that was reminiscent of a casino or gambling, or that was deemed a sin, we couldn't have those activities in our home. And so other things, of course, which is, you all may be familiar with this kind of stuff though, but I don't know. We'll see. Let me know though if you are, because I do want to know if you are familiar. So, you know, you have your rules where, of course, on Sunday, you can't do anything on Sundays. You can't wash your clothes. You can't iron. You can't do anything. And if you forget, then you just go to school wrinkle on Monday. So that's how it was. Also, when it came to music, you know, we couldn't have secular music in the home. Of course, no alcohol was allowed in the home, no wine or anything. Not that I cared. I mean, I was a kid, right? So I didn't care. But ultimately, the way I dressed was very much a big deal in how I grew up. And back then, you know, we were taught that, you know, our shirts had to be, as a woman, right? So as a woman, our shirts had to be at least a quarter of a sleeve, right? If it goes to your elbow, that's better, but at least I couldn't be sleeveless, like, ever. So that was like deemed and frowned upon. If your skirt needed to be to your knees or longer, you always needed to wear stockings, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it just taught you to, in a sense, like, you know, always cover up, because that's what you're supposed to do as a woman, right? You're supposed to cover up. You're not supposed to like be empowered about your body at all. Even inside of the church, it was a lot of, you know, we couldn't sit in certain areas of the church. You know, definitely not the front row, because the men were in the pulpit at the front. And so, you know, you have to make sure you're not sitting at the front, so that a guy the ministers would not feel attracted to you, or, you know, would not look up your skirts or anything like that. So you were just taught that you had to have all these worries and govern yourself accordingly to sort of manage men, so that, you know, it could be easier for men. Also, when it came to speaking inside of the church, as women, we were allowed to speak, but only like on the ground floor. We couldn't like get on stage. Because women were not allowed in the, that sounds so crazy now that I'm talking about this. I'm like, dang, that's crazy now. But back then it was so normal. I mean, it was just like, I thought it was normal, but I'm like, damn, that sounds kind of bad.
Well, and that's really normal, right? And so, like, we talked about this with, I forget who we talked about it, but where we have all these experiences as kids,
Yeah.
and they seem normal, they feel normal, and then when you look back on them as an adult, you can say with your adult mind, hold up, that's not acceptable, which is why we need to believe adults when they come forward about stuff that happened to them when they were kids, because they probably didn't know what happened to them when they were kids was something really weird.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And just at the church, like I said, we could speak, but on the ground floor, so can't get in the pulpit. You can't lead sermons. Women cannot be preachers or any of that stuff. And, you know, the man was the leader of everything, and that's just how it was. Although, you know, again, I was surrounded by a lot of empowering women, but it was to a capacity, I would say, than what it is today.
Yeah, that's something too that I have in common with her. So it's so funny. I grew up in the super fundamentalist church. Women have no rights or power either. But I was raised by a single, badass woman who just got crap done all by herself on very little money. And so it's always this weird tension. I'm like, wait a minute, but you're telling me I can't do any of these things, but that I'm seeing you do. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then you didn't stay like that, right? You learned at some point that you don't have to be quiet and submissive and stay in your box and not on stage.
Yeah, well, you know, I was always very opinionated as a kid. I would challenge everything. I would question everything. you know, a lot of the responses I would get is you don't question God, don't question the Bible, don't question the preacher because he is God ordained. So, you know, it's just whatever he says, that's what goes. And but I still never gave up. I was just naturally curious. And with my mother, who was biologically my great grandmother, but with my mother, she would allow me to question her. So she really encouraged curiosity. And I would just say like, okay, well, how come I can't do this? Or, you know, how come I can't do that? But she did instill into me a lot of things about being a classy woman. And a lot of those things I still hold true to me, but some things I don't resonate with anymore. And it doesn't mean that, you know, she meant me harm or anything like that. It was just the way that she was raised. And so a part of that was like being totally covered up, right? As a young girl. And we would have a seamstress come make our dresses for Easter and all these things. And, you know, and she would always make sure the seamstress knew like, okay, make sure her sleeves are, you know, a certain part. And now I'm just so much more like free. And I really have to credit my mother for that too. Although she did introduce me to sort of that strict Christianity, she also had this other side to her that allowed me to choose for myself. And because I always questioned her, I was able to find my own way with a lot of things. Also, when I did move to the Humble area and end up going to school with these ladies, that also introduced me to a different way of being because everybody did things differently. I was in a totally different demographic of people. It was just so different. And all my friends, my new friends, they didn't go to church on every Sunday. And I was like, oh, so you don't go to church tomorrow or anything like that? Because when I was a kid, it was one of my best friend's birthday. I would never forget. And I wanted to spend a night at her house for the weekend. And my mother said, no, you have to come back home. She can't stay through Sunday because she has church. And I cried. I was so upset because I'm like, it's my best friend's birthday. And everybody stayed that night except for me, and I had to go back home. And when I got into the Humble area, that's when things were different. Like, we can have sleepovers and, you know, and do things on Sunday without going to church. And it was just like, oh, wow, people really live very differently than how I had grew up. And so I was just always researching and looking at even like movies and those sorts of things, and just like utilizing that and reading a lot too, because education was a big deal in my household. And so I would always read the encyclopedia. When we got our first like computers, I would research and just see like, how do other people live in the world? You know, how is somebody living in Saudi Arabia? How is this person living? I was just always curious about that. And a lot of the things I found contradicted what I was living inside of the church. And so I'm like, well, is everybody so you're telling me the whole world is wrong, but not us? I'm like, okay, so we're the only right people, but everybody is totally wrong, right? And they're like, yes, that's correct.
That is what we want you to believe.
End of story.
So I'm like, so we're the only ones that's going to heaven and they're all going to hell, right? Correct. That is correct. So I'm like, okay, but I never really grasped that. I was just like, so the whole world, like the whole entire world, all the different countries are all going to hell except for us. Even the other Christians who are not Baptists, they're going to hell too. Oh my gosh, even the Pentecostal people, even these people, because they have different beliefs that vary a little bit, they're not going to heaven either. And I'm like, okay. So I got like 18, 19, and the church, Grace Church of Humble, and it was like newly built over there. And I told my mother, I was like, I just kept passing by the church because we lived over there then. I'm like, can I go to that church? I want to see what's going on in that church. And I just wanted to see. And she said, you're an adult now. You can go to any church you choose as long as you have a church home. That's fine with me. And I started going to Grace Church, and I was just like, wow. And I still love that church, by the way. I haven't been in years, but I love it. And I was just so floored because I was just like, oh my gosh, like it was like a very prosperous way of being there. There wasn't a lot of, and I think it is still like a non-denominational church. And so it was just like, everybody come, whoever you are. And people had on like jeans, and you can wear pants at church. And I was just like, yeah, I was like, you can wear pants at church? Some people will come from the gym and go to church. And so I was just like, you came from the gym in that outfit and you're at church. And even just experiences like at Lakewood and other churches. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And they're not going to hell, and this is amazing. So
Wait, I was introducing Cindy Dawson. Wave, hello. She was on season 1, and she was the first woman I saw preach. And I remember being in church, watching her preach, and literally looking around the room to see if anyone was upset. And they weren't. And so I was just like, okay, we're cool with this. This is a thing that people are cool with. I have no idea. Sorry. But like, it's the same thing. You're so shocked. Like, it's so shocking when you encounter a different way of belief. It's really great and empowering. And one of the things I want to hear about too, specifically, like, I'm a white woman who found empowerment with a lot of other white women. And is it harder for Black women to find empowerment, to get out of these types of belief systems? Mm-hmm. How has your experiences been different, do you think, getting out of that?
That's a good question. I feel like as a Black woman, I would say this, culturally, and I mean, and again, every Black person has their own different experience. Okay. So let's just say that, for me and the people that I was around, most of them are still in that, honestly, because it's just rooted in you. It's something that is passed on from generation to generation. So everybody I grew up with, they're all in the same mindset of thinking. They may have outgrown some of the beliefs, but for the most part, they're still there. And they still attend the same church, literally, since the beginning of time that we went to. And they're just still doing the same old things. And I think it is harder to get out of it because it's like, I feel like if the history of the country and speaking of Black people's history in this country, it may be harder because religion is something that is sort of from this perspective of things is passed on to you, you know, and so you only know as much as you were told or taught to know. And because a lot of Black people are not really rooted in their history before slavery and who they really are, slavery's history is only American. It's really just, this is where America is. It doesn't start, Black people's history doesn't start as slaves. These were doctors, these were regular everyday people like you and I are today that, you know, maybe were kidnapped or forced or sold or whatever the case may be, and to come into a whole new land that we're not familiar with. So I think because we were taught to lose our own African spirituality and beliefs and to pick up and adopt something new, you know, we don't have anything else to fall back on. And so this is the only way. And I think because of the history of Christianity and Black people and praying to God for a way out of slavery, praying to God for a way of out of all of these things, it just seems like, well, what other option do I have but to stay in this scenario?
Yeah, I feel like so much of a lot of Black people's experience is rooted in what do I have to do to survive, right? Like that's what our ancestors had to do. And so I think support system is everything. So the fact that you had someone in your life that allowed you to question things is such a blessing, because for a lot of people in general, but especially Black people, that is scary. It's like, this is the one thing that that has been taught to me that I believe to be true. And if I question it, to what Rev was talking about earlier, like we are taught not to question things. And from a Black person's perspective, it's like, well, this is what I was told, and this is what feels comfortable to me because it's all that I know. So if I should stray from that, I don't know. Like,
And on top of that, I have a lot of friends who parents didn't allow them to question them.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you're saying. So a lot of my friends' parents say if you question them, you would get a whooping, you would get all these things will happen. You would be punished if you question them. So there was not. I had that, like you said, I had that privilege of asking and posing questions. But most of my friends, when they talk about their childhood, they couldn't just like ask their parents for a different perspective or challenge that.
I have no idea what that's like. All right, so obviously Arnaecia is super well spoken. She knows what she's doing and talking about. And so what I want to hear from her, what if you don't mind sharing too, like how does all of this go into the music industry? So that's your area of expertise. You're very passionate about all of these things, and I'm just curious what that looks like for you professionally. How does this translate there?
Yeah, I would say I think it translates. It starts with like the good girl image is what I would say. I mean, I'm just speaking from a woman. I'm not a guy, so I can't share that. But I know, like, I was taught to be a good girl, right? And good girls, they're classy, they're educated, which we are, right? But also, good girls are covered up, and they're very well behaved, and they're very respectable. And they stay in a certain position in a certain lane. And so when I first started getting into this industry, thankfully, I was able to work with a lot of, high profile people. And some of those people were in the gospel and inspirational industries as well. And because of that, I had this, and even like the mega pastors that I represented as well, because of that, I had this thing where, okay, Arnaecia, you have to stay and be a good girl, because especially when you're on this side of the fence, especially when you're in the gospel side of things, you have to maintain that good girl image. And also, it just maybe made me not really understand the full capacity of who I truly am as a woman. It, what's the word, like limited. It limited my creativity. It limited my own beliefs about who I am or who I was at that time, because I know who I am now. So, but it limited those things. And so in the industry, when you think, okay, you know what, if I just do X, Y, Z, if I just do all these things right, like they told me to, I'm going to get this. There's a reward at the end of this. Right?
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. That reward is sometimes not being assaulted. Like that's the reward you get is by being a good girl. That means you're not going to. Yeah.
And if you are a good girl, you're get a good husband too. So that's just a little personal, but good girl image, it gets you everything you need in life. And so I maintain that good girl image, and working with a lot of people that I worked with, I mean, again, I've had the most incredible experiences with a lot of them, and I would never, ever take back any of those experiences. But just for myself, because of how I was groomed, it wasn't really supportive for who I was becoming as a woman. And being in my 20s, entering into all of that, going on the red carpet, I have to make sure, what am I going to wear? Oh, I can't wear this. Or maybe I do want to go to Drake's after party, but I can't maybe be seen at the after party at Drake's, right? I can't do or be seen, or I have to wear a jacket. So sometimes I will have certain clients and I'm like, oh, let me put on a jacket so that, they can't see what I may wear when I go out. Or I hope that my client isn't questioning what I have on. That's okay, I got it. What I have on or anything like that. So, it really does alter you in those ways of like, how do people, it gives too much energy into what other people think about you instead of you realizing who you are and what you really think about yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that you said, you would find your voice, you would use your voice, you would exercise your leadership abilities. And then once you got into a gospel space or a church space, you would turn that down. And I just realized that last week with my own church and my own life is that I am very outspoken and have found my voice in many ways, and it's super fun. Way better way to live, but I still find myself feeling limited in church. I still find myself wanting to be quieter and not disruptive. And when I have very strong and good opinions on how things should be.
And she's so humble.
Hey, it's fine. But I just think that's really interesting. I've been doing this work. This is our 3rd year doing the podcast. I worked on it a year before the first one. This is my 4th year in these spaces. And I was so shocked to reflect with my friends Deidre and Cindy about that a few weeks back, about how I had not been outspoken at church on an issue that's very important to me, whenever I'm very clearly outspoken in every other place. And I corrected that and am trying to do better at that. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. And like you were saying professionally too, I also remember like a lot of times I would give and give. I was so generous because I was just taught that's what good girls are. You're generous, you're giving, you're charitable, right? And I would do so much for all of these people, and I would generally get the short end of the stick at the end of the day. But I thought, because I was being a good girl, that I'm going to get the big reward at the end, and it never happens. Because it doesn't get you anything. Being yourself and who you really are is what gets you everything. So that was something that I had to realize that really affected me professionally. I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, even during the pandemic, I had this even more awakening. And I stopped working with all of my faith-based people because I'm like, this is really hindering me from being who I really want to be. And because I'm so big on, if I post this on social media, what is that person going to think? What is this pastor going to say? Or I'm also the marketing director at mega churches at that time, and representing all of these people. If I post this, what if one of the members see it? You know? And so it just made me it lowers your self-esteem. That's what I would say. It lowers your self-esteem professionally, and you end up getting paid less. You end up not speaking up about your pay. You end up not speaking up about how you're treated, because some instances, especially in Hollywood and et cetera, I mean, Hollywood's not all bad, but like in anything, you have your highs and lows. And in some of those cases, it's like, when the celebrity turns on for some of the people you work with, and you see, they're going to treat you differently when the celebrity turns on. Not when they're behind the scenes, but when it's showtime, they may act different, right? And so it's like, why did I let that person talk to me like that? And they did it in front of people. That was very disrespectful. But because I was such a good girl, I was taught, okay, be meek, because we had to learn all of the, look, I can't even remember it now. God forgive me. I can't remember it now, but we had to learn all of the Beatitudes. And it said something in there about being meek. And yeah, so we had to recite that every day. You know, if we didn't even say a scripture, we couldn't eat Sunday dinner. We had to go to church. If you didn't go to church on Sunday when you was an adult, you could not eat Sunday dinner. That's for sure. But
this sounds like the Crucible.
This is intense.
Yeah,
you
we
could
talk
not.
about it. Just I go back to being the Crucible.
Yeah,
Salem witch trials actually happened, y'all, and it didn't work out so well. So maybe we shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, and so just like showing up and doing what you were taught, you know, and I thought it was I was gonna get wins from that, but I got losses and repeated losses and broken promises. And to me, it just reminded me of the experiences in the church with the pastors and certain things when it came to, you know, accountability for behavior inside of the church as well. And it's like, I'm gonna handle that. I'm gonna handle this, and it never ever gets handled.
And my favorite phrase to say is accountability is kindness. And I say it to my high school students a lot these days. They do not like being held accountable. Nobody really does, but especially high school students. But I just think it's really interesting that the God that we're taught so often in our youth is one who limits and puts us in a box. And that's not the God that I know in the Bible. And that's not the God that we see. God is freeing, and a relationship with God is beautiful and allows you to love yourself and express yourself fully, and because God's image is in us. And it is heartbreaking to again hear that we have failed so many people in Christianity, and we are really brainwashing young people to believe that they have no value. And those young people grow up into adults, and some of them start podcasts.
And boundaries too. That's another thing. It affects your boundaries. So overall, what I'm trying to say is have good, healthy boundaries with people, because it really educates people on how you want to be treated. That's something I really, really struggled with in the beginning of my life. And I had to learn that. And especially being a businesswoman, I've pretty much been in business for myself almost all of my adulthood. And so I had to learn boundaries, and I had to put those things in place. But because I was raised a certain way and I was being a good girl, when you're being a good girl, you lack boundaries. And when you lack boundaries, you'll get taken advantage of every single time.
Yeah. I'm curious, Arnaecia, because something that I struggle with professionally is, I work in tech, and there's not a lot of people who look like me. So I'm in a lot of meetings where, I'm the only Black person and the only Black woman. And so for a really long time, I was afraid to voice my opinions, right? Like, I didn't want to be the angry Black woman, or I didn't want to be the one that's like, hey guys, that's not inclusive. Hey guys, diversity. Hey, and now I feel like I'm getting more comfortable in that space. But I'm curious for you, how racism and just being a Black woman in your industry, like how did you kind of factor that in when you were kind of coming into your own and having your voice?
So let me just make a quick disclaimer that all views are mine. It does not reflect any organization or brand that I affiliate or represent. So a part of one of the organizations that I was a member of at that time, I was not on the board. And I would look around and say, dang, we have an annual event every year. And I was like, I did a video of all of the people who were on the board at that time, and none of them looked like me, not one. And it was even fewer women in general, fewer white women, maybe like 2, and all white men. And definitely no Black women. And I was like, and you know what? When I go back and think about it, has there ever been Black people on the board, And I'm like, okay, let me do some research here. And so in that moment, I told myself, I'm going to be on the board. And because there's nobody here that looks like me, and I know I can't be the only one thinking that. And you're so right about having those feelings of what can I say? How much can I say? How should I say it? We probably rewrite our sentences in our head 100 times before we even speak, And during the pandemic, luckily, we had a change in position, and the new person who came in, her mindset was totally different, and I have to credit her a lot for being so supportive, for making things different than what they have been. And in that time, we had this event called Amplifying Black Voices during the pandemic, and I wasn't a board member, but she allowed me to speak in that event. And I said, oh, this is my time to talk about all the things that are wrong. This whole organization is wrong, everything from top to bottom. And so I'm like, okay, I just started calling it out. And I was just like, okay, so, we have more than enough Black people in the industry to be at the decision-making tables. When you all send out email blasts, they're very insulting, and they're not inclusive. And they're disrespectful, actually. They're just disrespectful. And it sounds like you're pandering. It doesn't sound authentic. And I'm like, why do you have white men writing press releases speaking on Black issues and addressing the Black music industry. It doesn't make any sense to me. And that was the first time that I had ever really spoke out like that. And I was shaking because I was like, oh my goodness, I'm probably really not going to get on the board because I am talking about all this stuff. And I kid you not, the first time I ran for board, I did not make it. And I was crying. I was so upset because I knew it was because of my skin color. I knew it was because of the membership is totally mostly like white males. Why would a white man vote for a young Black woman to be on the board? That's just not going to happen. People tend to vote for who look like them, right? And so I didn't get it, and I was so mad about it, and I was just like, I'm so pissed because this is what I'm talking about. We can't even get on the board because this is wrong and this is wrong, and I was just so upset. And that lady I was telling y'all about, she said, okay, you want to join the committee? Unofficially, I mean, I'm not a board member, but I can join the committees. And I said, perfect. I joined the committee. So I still did what I could do to whatever capacity and max I could amplify and take up space. That's what I did. And I began to say, you know what? Why am I like walking around stressed out with anxiety over, am I saying the right thing when they're doing all the wrong things? So why should I take on that stress? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, it didn't make sense to me. And so I just stopped taking on the stress of white people and figuring out, well, what are they going to think about me for speaking out against their inherent beliefs and ways? And I'm like, I have a duty and a responsibility because there's going to be another girl that looks like me 5-10 years from now that's going to come through here. And also what also helped me in making better decisions for myself is, I learned this in therapy, is to
shout out therapy.
Yes. And not talking, no, let me tell you, talking to your pastor is good, but you do sometimes have to go to therapy. And that's something that we were not taught either. But I will say I learned this in therapy, and she taught me how to make decisions based on the little girl version of me, right? And so I started treating myself as if I'm like 3-year-old Arnaecia. And in every situation, I will make a decision. So I'm like, well, I want to be on the board. I want to do whatever. This is little 3-year-old Arnaecia saying these things. So I have to speak up for her because she's just a kid. Who's going to advocate for her? And ever since I started doing that for myself, I don't care who makes anybody uncomfortable, because when you think about it as a child, if you all have kids and you know if somebody messes with your kid, you're going to speak up. You're going to go to hell and back for your kid, right? And when you think, but a lot of times we would take so much stuff ourselves and say, oh, you know what? I can be in this unhealthy marriage. It's okay because it's just affecting me. I can be with unhealthy friends. I could be at a toxic work environment. No big deal because it's only affecting me. But if it was your daughter or your son, you would be like, oh no, why are you talking to my child like that? What's going on here? And so I had to treat and go like a mother myself, if you will. And when I started talking about the little version of Arnaecia and advocating for her, I didn't care who was uncomfortable in the room, you know, because I'm advocating for her, you know.
We'll charge you guys for this free therapy session at the end. You can Venmo us. No, that's so true and so important. And it kind of reminds me of what Kelly was talking about earlier around like things happen to you as a child that as an adult you wouldn't stand for. You're like, oh, this is not okay, right? Yeah. And so transitioning just a little bit, but when we think about, you know, abuse and people coming forward and whether or not people are believed, like from what you've experienced in your industry, what does that look like? How are allegations of abuse typically handled or mishandled?
They're not handled. So I would say this too. They coincide because I have a cousin who had a situation with a pastor at a church. He dropped her off at home and he did something very indecent with one of his body parts. And she was a little girl, maybe 10, 11, 12 years old. And luckily, we were able to save and get her out of that situation in that moment. But my family went to the church the next day and was like, hey, this guy did this, and he already had like a reputation. He had a reputation of it. He's a pastor, but even with his own family members, they would say how he was indecent with them and making comments and all these things. And my pastor at that time, and I really looked up to him my whole life. I thought he was the best man on earth. Like, he came directly from God, and it was just, and he was like, okay, he did that. Okay. We're going to talk to him. We're going to handle it. And I thought, oh, he's going to get on him. He's going to really teach him a lesson. Crickets. No resolution. The guy was back preaching and doing things like never before, just like normal. Nothing happened to the guy. And because of the audience, I'm not going to share what he did to my cousin, but it's extremely awful. And I'm like, in that moment, I wish I could have, spoken up more and advocated, but I was a kid too, but I felt that it was injustice at that time that was happening. Segueing to the music industry, it's very similar, because you have a lot of people who are big time producers, who are big time executives, and it's like, if you say this about them, what'll happen is you will tend to get, that guy would normally sick a lot of women onto you to make you bow down. So he usually doesn't handle it himself. He just sends other women who are enablers of his behavior as well. And so that's a lot of times what happened. And so the woman can't speak out, or she's scared to, because it's not just the guy she's afraid of. She's afraid of all of the 30 women that comes behind this guy that's going to ridicule her, send her DMs, not like her, and have mean girl behavior. And a lot of times that happened because in the industry, when you're the top guy or whatever it is that you may do, a lot of the women, they want to be with you to some capacity. And if I have to fight this battle and this another woman just to get more attention or praise from him, then I will do that. And so a lot of women will do that. And so it's not just the men, it's a collective of things that come with that. And it's also the shaming, because what would happen is that guy would normally go on social media or even behind the scenes and call people and talk bad about you in another way. So he won't even mention anything like sexual or something abusive. It'll be like, oh, I worked with her and she's really bad at her job. She does not do good. And then you're like, well, that's not true. I did a good job. But now everyone's going to think you don't do good work. And it's already hard enough as a woman of any color to be able to really work and thrive in the industry, right? And so it's more so of that backlash that comes with it, and it affects now your reputation is tainted because of somebody else's bad behavior. And to avoid all of that hassle and stress of who's not going to deal with you, who's not going to talk to you, and who's not going to want to work with you, you just shut up and you say nothing about it, and you just keep it moving, because it's very, very, very hard. And, even the men that may be your allies in the industry, they may say, oh, I have your back, that was wrong. But then you see them in the studio working with that guy the next day. And it's just like a slap in the face, and I think it's just a very particular thing. I think it does need to be addressed a lot more. And that's why I feel like, and even with my label for next year that we're launching, we're implementing a lot of safe barriers and boundaries for people, where every artist will have therapy. Every artist will have a level of transparency. Every artist will have all these things, because it's so important that we support people at the human level first, aside from just who we are professionally. And I think that's what gets twisted in the music industry, is the humanity is taken out of things. And people don't care that, she's crying over this situation. The guy walks through the door, lights still flash, and life goes on, and she's just a bitter person who's unhappy about something else. So it's hard to really go against giants and people, and even if it's not a huge giant, it's just hard in general to go against something that only you two were there for. It's hard to prove that it's he say, she say, and just I've done my own studies and research about this, so I can be more aware too. Only about 2% of abuse cases, first of all, most abuse cases are not even reported, number one. And out of the 2% that are reported, only about 2% of those are actually false. So you always want to err on the side of believing the victims and people who are saying this happened to them. A lot of people say, oh, that person's lying, or how do you know? Well, look at the stats. You don't even have to be there to know. Do you think this person's a part of that 2%? I doubt it. So a lot of that just goes misdirected, not handled properly, and then you take on all this trauma, and it affects your work, and it affects your creativity, and then you see women, not really being able to say, how can I speak up at work tomorrow when people didn't even believe me about this?
And it's like, I love you err on the side of believing, right? Because all the backlash that people get when they do speak up, why would anyone voluntarily be like, hey, I want to get crucified today, let me make up something, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's infuriating, though it's not surprising. Mm-hmm. But I think the work that you're doing is so important, and I love the fact that you're gonna provide therapy. That is huge. Yeah. It's just such a blessing, so I'm just so encouraged by that and excited for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we are going to do, that's just one of many caveats that we're going to add to making sure it's a safe, again, we want the label to be equitable and a safe home. We want it to be a home, right? So when you come home, you want to feel comfortable, you want to feel good, you want to feel supported, you want transparency in your home, and that's our first way of culture, is just creating a home. And making sure artists feel at home so that they can thrive in their creativity, because if you don't feel at home, you can't be creative. It's going to really affect you. Yeah.
You are so impressive and amazing, and I'm so excited that I was able to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your gifts, for speaking truth to power. We're so happy to have you. If folks want to engage with you more, where should they do that?
You guys can reach me. I'm more on Instagram more than Twitter. I'm definitely not on TikTok. Well, I am on TikTok, only to discover artists though, but I have a TikTok, but I don't post. I don't know anything about TikTok like that. But Instagram and Twitter would be the go-to, and it's just my name, Arnaecia, Arnaecia. And yeah, you guys can find me there. And that's it. Yeah, I think that's the only places.
Can we have a round of applause for her awesomeness?
Yes, please. Kelly, I know you're about to wrap us up, but I also just want to give a huge round of applause for Miss Kelly Browning. Like, this is amazing. And the work, I'm getting emotional because I love you, and the work that you do is really important. Yeah. And it's just so great to see it. God, I wasn't going to cry. Dang it. Okay, I'm done.
This is really cool to see you guys. I have tears in my eyes also. Thanks, Dara. She brings out the best in me. But that's it. That's a wrap on season 3, y'all. And thank you for coming out tonight. I'm not sure of what happens next in terms of the podcast because I'm tired. But I am so glad to have been here with you guys. Everyone here, please get a gift. Please get a t-shirt. Please get a gift card to Larry's Designs. And y'all have a good night. Woo!